Good evening, I'm Patricia Vallone with a CTV News update. A Prince George's County police officer who once rescued an infant who was strapped in a hot car for hours has been indicted on assault charges. Investigators say Corporal Darrell Wormuth assaulted a teenager after the 17-year-old was taken into custody on October 20th, 2020. They say the teen was outside in the 4500 block of Davis Avenue in Suitland when the encounter happened. Investigators say Wormuth's fellow officers alerted their commanders, who then notified Internal Affairs of the incident.
During the encounter, it is alleged that Officer Wormuth grabbed the victim by the neck and assaulted him while he was in handcuffs. Yesterday, my office presented our evidence in this case to a grand jury, and the grand jury returned the 3-count indictment.
What you described clearly is a troubling situation. That is not the type of policing that our residents expect. That's not the type of policing that they deserve. And it certainly isn't the type of policing that we condone on the Prince George's County Police Department.
Wormuth, who also faces misconduct and office charges, turned himself in last night and was released on a $10,000 bond. Well, it is back to school 5 days a week in person this fall for students and teachers. That's the order coming from the Maryland State Board of Education. Members passed the resolution unanimously yesterday. Currently, 58% of students in Maryland continue to learn online. The move comes as some parents have criticized the state for the slow reopening of schools. The teachers union says not so fast.
It is my understanding that vaccines are not going to be available for students under 16, and they won't be able to get vaccinated in time. And a lot of our schools in Prince George's County are over capacity. And how are you going to manage social distancing in this environment?
Prince George's is one of 5 school districts across the state that is open for less than 40% of their students weekly. Montgomery County's top leader says the jurisdiction has the 3rd lowest positivity rate in the state. During a virtual COVID-19 briefing, County Executive Mark Elrich said Montgomery's positivity rate is at 2.05. The county's Board of Health recently approved guidelines to fully reopen the county in phases. Elrich says the reopening of Montgomery County will be tied to vaccination rates. Currently, the county is in phase 1 with more than 50% of the population receiving at least their first dose. Phase 2 will begin when 60% of the population gets at least their first shot.
If we had not done what we had done, if we had followed the path that led to double and tripling of the case rates in many counties, and there were counties that had 3 times as many as we had at our peak this last time, that would have added hundreds, if not 1,000 or more cases a week to Montgomery County's total. So our decision in being able to keep case rates down in Montgomery County led to far fewer infections that would have happened if we had chosen a different path.
Elrich says Montgomery County will move into phase 3 when 50% of the population is fully vaccinated. Maryland is doing well in its vaccination efforts, according to the state's new health secretary. I spoke with Dennis Schrader earlier today about the state's mass vaccination sites and mobile clinics. Schrader also mentioned how the state is reaching out to vulnerable residents, including here in Prince George's County.
We have a massive outreach effort all throughout the state within many populations. We've got, for example, seniors 65 plus. We've now reached 83.7% of them statewide. Within the minority communities, African American, we've reached 21.7%, and we're 4th best in the nation with vaccinating that population. Hispanics, we've cracked through 5.1%. Our goal is 10, and we're making progress there. Also, and the way we're doing it now is to go into communities with trusted organizations who know the community, who have maybe lists that they can call and talk to people, and then we link them up with clinical partners who have doses that can go into those communities and vaccinate people.
Meantime, Governor Hogan is expected to address the CDC's new face mask guidelines this afternoon and whether the state plans to update its policy. Well, 20 Marylanders have died from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, that according to the state health department. The agency also reports more than 1,000 new COVID-19 cases. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to more than 445,000. Meantime, more than 82,000 Prince Georgians have contracted the virus. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Patricia Vallone. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. Well, all eyes will be on the U.S. Capitol tonight as President Joe Biden makes his first address to a joint session of Congress. The president is expected to push for overhaul of the troubled immigration system. His proposal includes a pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants who were brought here as children. Biden is also expected to make a case for his $1.8 trillion American Families Plan, including funding to make community colleges tuition-free. The plan, which will not likely garner much Republican support, would create universal preschool for 3- and 4-year-olds. Biden addresses the Congress at 9 tonight. Reform advocates are calling for the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act to pass the Senate after the Derek Chauvin guilty verdict. The bill would address a wide range of issues, including improving training for officers and restricting the use of no-knock warrants. The ACLU says it's encouraged this legislation has passed the House, but it says it's time for the U.S. Senate to act.
We criminalize homelessness, we criminalize drug addiction, we criminalize mental health issues, right? What if we just poured more money into solving people's mental health crises, into solving their drug addiction, having things like safe injection sites? Those are the kinds of alternatives to incarceration that actually prevent the behaviors that we want to prevent, rather than just getting in this endless cycle of incarceration.
The House of Representatives passed the bill in March. As we reported yesterday, the U.S. Census Bureau released its apportionment results delayed due to the pandemic. The results show that Maryland will retain its 8 congressional House seats. But the data needed to determine state and local legislative districts is not expected until the end of September. That could affect the campaigns of numerous lawmakers.
The number of people determines how big the geographies are. The number of people in each one of those census tracts is not known to us yet. So the census tracts, actually census blocks, which are smaller, are the building blocks for creating the districts. And those numbers will not be available yet.
For a lawmaker who is running in a particular district, who might have an election campaign coming up, how could it affect them?
There are potentials for lawmakers who live on the edges of districts for those districts lines to shift, and they may file for an office in which they're no longer a resident of that district anymore. At the congressional level, it's not a constitutional problem. You technically could live anywhere in Maryland and be a congressman. Most people live in their district, but at the local level, the state level, living in your district is important. So that's potentially an issue for people who have to file for office.
McCord adds that Maryland isn't the only one affected by the delayed census results. Every state is dealing with the same issue. And we will be back with more news in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's good. It's not.
Thanks for staying with us. So 13 people, including a corrections official, have been indicted for a scheme to smuggle illegal drugs into a women's prison. The Maryland Attorney General says the charges involve smuggling attempts at the Maryland Correctional Institute for Women. 6 inmates and 7 outside facilitators allegedly worked together to bring in Suboxone strips into the prison. The drugs recovered are reportedly worth up to $280,000. Be on alert for another tax scam. That's the word from Maryland Comptroller Peter Franchot. A fake collections agency is attempting to steal Marylanders' money by taking advantage of a public lien information. Taxpayers have received letters correctly addressed to them from an entity claiming to be a collections agency operating on behalf of the comptroller's office. The letter is not legitimate. If you receive any correspondence like this, you're asked to contact the comptroller's office immediately. Bowie State and Morgan State universities are receiving $200,000 from a global research organization. Battelle is teaming up with both schools over the next 2 years for its first phase of its HBCU consortium. This partnership allows students to participate in mentorships and seminars. Some computer science students are currently participating in virtual internships where they're learning about software development.
They are working with these professionals, they explore, they analyze, they design computing solutions realistically. And it is a learning process and a great learning experience for those who never get a chance to then do something like a full-blown internship.
BSU hopes to expand the partnership to students in other fields, including natural sciences. The Department of Parks and Recreation is welcoming children back for 2021 summer camp sessions. The agency will offer both in-person and virtual summer day camps this year. Some camp programs will operate on a full day or half-day schedule. Face coverings will be required for in-person camps. Participants must undergo temperature checks before entering facilities. For more information, visit pgparks.com. Well, sports news, the big day for pro football fans is 24 hours away. The NFL draft is tomorrow night. The Washington football team has the number 19 draft pick. Lake Lewis, the owner of Sports Journey Media, says Washington has a lot of options. BSU hopes to expand the partnership to students in other fields, including natural sciences. The Department of Parks and Recreation is welcoming children back for 2021 summer camp sessions. The agency will offer both in-person and virtual summer day camps this year. Some camp programs will operate on a full day or half-day schedule. Face coverings will be required for in-person camps. Participants must undergo temperature checks before entering facilities. For more information, visit pgparks.com. Well, sports news, the big day for pro football fans is 24 hours away. The NFL draft is tomorrow night. The Washington football team has the number 19 draft pick. Lake Lewis, the owner of Sports Journey Media, says Washington has a lot of options.
Washington football team has the 19th pick. It's a little different from last year when they had the number 2 pick, and we knew that they were taking Chase Young for months at a time. Now it's a little different, and they have several needs. You could possibly take a homegrown kid, Darrisaw, from Virginia Tech, great left tackle, really good run blocker, would have to get a little better at his pass blocking. He's a local kid. He went to Riverdale Baptist. So Washington has shown a trend over the past few drafts, and especially last year with Ron Rivera in his first year, we're bringing in some local guys, who know the history and the lore of this franchise. So maybe Darrisaw is their guy at 19. I also think, though, that they're going to have to look at the linebacker spot, the middle linebacker spot in particular. And there's 3 guys that are really good out there, led by Micah Parsons from Penn State. I'm not going to say it because, I'm a Penn State guy, but this is a guy that's a generational talent. And a lot of people think that he's one of the best middle linebacker prospects in recent memory. There has been a couple of red flags as far as some quote unquote character issues that have potentially could make him slide. But if he's there at 19 for Washington, I don't see how they pass on him. Or even if he's close to 19, they may move up for that type of player, impact player. You have Zaven Collins from Tulsa, who's athletic, and then you have Jamin Davis from Kentucky, another athletic, 6'3", 235 linebacker with a 42-inch vertical. Can you imagine plugging any of these players on this young Washington roster? Regardless, at 19, whoever they get, they're expected to join a team that's going to challenge again for the NFC East title and get better and better under second-year coach Ron Rivera.
In addition to owning Sports Journey Media, Lake Lewis is the host of the After Practice podcast. And now for your weather forecast tonight, possible showers with lows around 68 degrees. Thursday, a 40% chance of showers with highs in the 80s. Friday, breezy conditions with possible rain, highs around 71. Saturday, sunny skies with highs in the upper 60s. And that is your news update. I'm Patricia Vallone. Have a great night.